Hi, everybody. Welcome to the One Circle podcast. And what I mean by that is that we just had a great conversation, John, Anne Marie, and I, about the One Circle. And that was our intention to share with you. So, because we reference it, it's a huge part of our week and what we do. There's offerings that you can join live, or there's just material that you can access. You'll get an email every week, but it's our community for people who want to go deeper and really practice these things we're talking about, especially around what does it really look like to connect with God and wake up to that connection you already have in your day-to-day, every, mundane life. Not mundane, but in just the things you do every day. How do you make oneness with God practical for daily life? This is the community that wants to try it together, practice it, share about it, learn more about it. You can show up or not show up live, but we want to create resources for you. So that's the short version. We want you to know what it is. But this whole podcast that you're about to hear is actually a little taste of what you get when you're part of the One Circle, because we are creating a podcast just for the One Circle, where we're really going to go deeper on some of the things. You'll probably see us showing up a little bit more fully, having maybe a more vulnerable conversation, just because we know that this is for a group that's interested. This is for a group that's having that conversation. And so what you're about to see is what we recorded for the One Circle. And then we kind of come back to this bigger podcast, the One Journey podcast, and we have a conversation about the way that we've structured the One Circle, what it is, how one is funded, the concept of shalom and mutuality, how that plays in, the concept of not fixing each other and not using dogmatic language around hearing God's voice, things that really matter for us as a culture. That's all in this next episode. So that's what you're about to hear, and we're really glad you're here. This is our first time that we're going to have a conversation that we're recording for the One Circle. And, we're all new to podcast hosting, recording, talking. And we really want, I'm not going to speak for you guys, I want to be able to just talk like we do to each other, specifically with you guys. I mean, most of you who are part of the One Circle, we know in some way or another. And so this is going to be the first time that we send something out to you guys. And the heart of it is that we really are having some of these deeper and bigger conversations about some of the concepts that we put out there all the time, some of the things that we do. And one of those concepts is this idea that there's two trees in the garden. And this is in Genesis 1-2-3. And that one of those trees is the tree of life. One of those trees, and there's many trees, but the two that are focused on in Genesis early is tree of life, tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And this tree of the knowledge of good and evil is something every single human eats from. We every day, this is a very normal thing for us to live, breathe, and move, trying to have a knowing, a mental apprehension of what is the right thing to do and what is good and what is the wrong thing to do and what is bad. And it is the human journey that everybody crafts for themselves. A pattern of living of, this is how I should live, this is how I shouldn't live, this is what I know to be good, this is what I don't know will be bad, so I need to avoid it. And this is normal, this is even good, this develops systems, this allows us to have a sense of morality and ethics, and all of those things are good developmentally. But at the same time, it breaks down, because yours is going to be a little bit different than mine, even if we're both trying really hard to follow Jesus's, and it's also usually coming from our experiences, our wounding, the generational things that have been passed down to us. And it's ultimately not life. I can follow it to a T, but it's going to have a cost. And it's actually going to produce death. And there is also available to all of us in this incredible garden that we've been planted in, called the world, as children of God, there's the tree of life. And that is for us to eat from. And it's just a different way. But it's not the way that any of us immediately default into. And yet it is natural and it's available. So that's just the bigger context for something I want to say. We don't even have to go more into that. But what I want to set us up for in this little conversation for you guys on the One Circle is when you're on the journey with God, when you're on the journey as a human, as you grow, especially as you grow, and you're feeling like, wow, God's really moving in my life, or I'm really experiencing breakthrough in this area, or like I'm just learning new things and I'm getting free and God's healing me, or I'm just enjoying this, or I'm becoming more settled in who I am. I can almost guarantee you're also in that same space, in that same breath, in the same hour, if not the same hour, probably the same week. You're also going to have these moments where you're like, wow, am I going like 10 steps backwards? Wow, I'm feeling these things I've never felt before. Wow, I can really see how I have been so stuck in needing to prove something or needing to get something right. And I think it's because you actually are growing. And now there's new space in you to hold an awareness of some of the broken stuff and that way that we've clung to needing to be right. And the old emotions that we really didn't have the capacity to feel, well, now you do. And so you think, well, maybe I'm going backwards. I shouldn't be struggling with these things anymore, or I shouldn't be feeling this, or I'm stuck in this old way of shoulds and shouldn'ts and eating from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. So I just want to hear from you guys, because I'm definitely having a moment like that in my life where I think I am getting more freedom than I've ever gotten, doing a lot of work in counseling and seeing things I've never seen before. And then I have moments where I just feel so much more than ever. And I'm so much more aware. And there's sadness and anger that come with those things. And then there's also relief and the ability to breathe a little deeper, let go a little more. So anyway, thoughts on that? Have y'all experienced that? Do you know what I'm saying here?
I have no idea what you're saying, Casey. I'm sorry.
Moving on, end of the
Yeah,
podcast.
no, yeah. Well, we were talking about it earlier this morning. I was telling you yesterday, and this is one of the reasons why I love community. It's why I love the community of the two of you. We've been having, that's one of the reasons why we got excited about this podcast, is we have these kinds of conversations. We almost immediately start having them anytime we get on a call, or it started this morning when we got on this call. We're like, wait, let's have this on the podcast because this is really important and it's really good. And yesterday, I was on, we were on one of the coaching calls, and one of the women led us in listening while we were coloring. And I was saying that the coloring alone brought up so much for me. Yes. Like literally, like coloring in a predetermined picture. It was birds. It was a book. It was a coloring book, just like you did when you were little. And I'm coloring this bird, and I am so confronted, and I have been over the last few days. There's a lot been sifting to the surface for me in a good way, in a painful way, where I'm feeling a lot that's sifting to the surface. And one of those things being, and I really came face to face with it yesterday, how confining it has been my whole life to have to be right, to do it the right way, to know the right answer. And I was so confronted yesterday with the frustration of it. I had to color this bird on the page the right way. I had to color it within the lines. I had to choose the right colors. I had to put the right colors next to each other, or it was going to be wrong. And I could feel all that inside me, knowing like intellectually this is dumb. I can color this bird however I want to color the bird. No one's going to see it. It doesn't matter. But I was confronted with me. I could feel the confines within myself. I could feel this war of there is a right way to do it. And I need to know the right way. And And one of the things as we were listening to Jesus on the call was he was drawing my attention to the power of knowing what is right and how much it has confined every area of my life. And one of the things that's operated in me to help me be right, in air quotes, is the voice of the critic. And I know I'll cry when I talk about this because I wake up every morning with it. I go to sleep with it. I hear it all day long. And I think one of the things that's happening now is it's because of the healing I've experienced, because of the freedom I've experienced, I'm more aware of it. It was so buried and so automatic, and I operated by it so automatically for so long. And now it's come to the surface and I see it and I hear it. And I know that I don't have to live with it. But it's so sad to me when I think of my real self. When I think of this little girl, she's lived with that critic. And I would never talk to one of you the way that I talk to myself, the way that I've hemmed in myself to be right in whatever capacity, and how that's cut me off from play. I don't even really know how to play. I think I have moments of it, but I see parts of my life where I couldn't even play because I had to be right in however I played. Yes, I can be the Mrs. I can be the Mrs. I can be silly. I can be funny. And that is play. And I'm thankful. What's so interesting, Casey, now that you bring that up, is that one of my memories of playing when I was younger, growing up in the neighborhood, was we had this drama club. We were like 8 or 9. And we would find these plays and we would put on plays for our parents in the yard. And so that's actually been one of the ways that I have been able to play, that I felt freedom to do that.
What I was referencing. I was just making the motion. Tell them what I was referencing. I was just making the motion.
John's never, I don't know if John's ever met the Mrs. I used to play this game with my grandmother when I was little. And she'd wake up really early in the morning and I'd go into the kitchen, and at the time she smoked. And she'd be smoking cigarettes, hiding from my grandfather, smoking cigarettes and drinking coffee. And so she'd make me iced coffee, which was basically milk and sugar with a dash of coffee in it. And we'd sit at the table and I'd pretend to be a Mrs. And she'd say, well, Mrs., how are your children doing? And so I'd pretend to be smoking, and I would just tell her all about my children. Well, I was at a baby shower one time, and I think it was Kim and some girls were outside, and I was holding this. It had been this cake pop, but it was the white stick that was left from the cake pop, and I had it between my fingers like this. And so I started talking like the Mrs. Only I was talking like this because she was a smoker, the Mrs. And I'd say, my grandmother would say, how are your children? And I'd be like, oh my God, my children are terrible. I had to spank my baby like 5 times today. It was awful.
So funny.
So that's where the Mrs.
We made her keep doing the Mrs. because she's so good at it. We're like, you're
so good. That voice is perfect.
Well, and at the time you were wearing
I had on a leopard skirt and a black tank top. I was just like, I looked like a character. I looked like
so amazing. But
that movie.
You are a drama person.
I am, and I'm glad we're talking about it.
I've known you for years and never seen the Mrs. come out.
Well, yeah, she's there. She's there.
Play.
Yeah, but anyway, I think that's just my stream of consciousness around.
Yeah.
Being so aware of the confines of it.
Well, and I think, again, it's easy for me to hear you say it and go, this is great. it's great that you're having a moment where you're so aware, because that awareness comes when something in you is ready to let it go.
Yeah.
Because the more you, and grieving it. And what I was going to say is I watched you because I was on the same call yesterday, and I was having a good old time doing mine, and I had actually come in pretty aware of my stuff too, like almost feeling like I couldn't quiet this mental dialogue that was obsessing over a certain aspect of my life. And I know I don't need to. I know God's on it. I know what he said before. I know, but it's almost like my ego just amped up, and I need something to just go, be quiet, like stop. You're safe. I don't need you to overthink. That's actually something I do quite a bit now, is like just tell myself, thank you for thinking about things, because I do know that you're just trying to mitigate all the things that could go wrong, and you're trying to sometimes shame yourself, but you're trying to get yourself to a good place, make sure you're making the right decision to be okay. And I'm okay. I'm an adult. All these things that I'm worried about aren't really real. These conversations aren't going to happen. So you can just settle down now and be quiet.
Yeah.
And jumping into play, which is, for me, it didn't trigger me in this instance. It just got me into this whole other way of thinking and being. But I was watching you, and I knew what was happening with you in some sense, just because I know you well, and I know.
Yeah.
I know, me too. But I was like, you didn't share. You passed on sharing. Your countenance was just different than normal. You seemed sad. And as your friend, I can feel even the things in me want to go, what's going on? Exactly what's wrong with you.
Let me fix you.
Yeah, let me fix you. Let me know you're okay. Let me know you're not mad at me. Let me know, this is my neurotic. But one of the things about the One Circle, and one reason I want to talk about this with you guys, our One Circle, is one of the most important things about it is not just that we're coming together to hear God's voice. We're doing a few other things. Like, it's just a few things that we are doing that are really important when we come together. And one of them is that we are holding a space where we do not need to jump in and fix each other. And I watch myself get uncomfortable in that space sometimes, and I watch other people struggle because they're not used to spaces like this. But we do it where, and sometimes even in a talk space like this, we can even like subtly try to fix each other. But in that space, we really won't talk to each other or respond a lot. It's just a space to come, listen to Jesus, and share what you got, or not share. And sometimes I think it's actually more powerful to just go, I'm feeling sad, and I'm going to sit here and feel it. And I don't even need to be understood. I can be witnessed. I can show up honest. But what I've noticed is when you actually give people the space to show up honest, know that we're going to be there, and know that we're not there to fix each other. Like, I don't need you to fix me. You don't need me to fix you. People are uncomfortable sometimes, but then it actually gives this awesome freedom where you can show up truly as you are, and you're not worried you're going to dominate things because you're having a bad day. You're not worried about actually being honest, to go, you know what, this is where I am. And there's so few spaces like that. And it's something that we have to cultivate together. And some people immediately then go, well, this happened the other week. Somebody was really triggered, and I reminded the group, we're holding a space for this. It's okay. And somebody said, well, then somebody said, I think this is my codependency, but it's really hard for me just to watch this. It makes me feel like we're not loving and we're not doing what we should as people following Jesus. And we had this great conversation about that. And so what I want to say is, it's not that we're not loving, it's that we're agreeing what this space is going to be. And I'm talking about the workshops on the One Circle, and the Monday call in the morning, the Monday call in the evening, the noon call on Mondays, the 7 o'clock call on Mondays. On Tuesdays when we get together, and we'll start that again in the fall, and you'll have videos sent to you, then we'll get together and workshop those. And on Wednesdays we have a coaching call for leaders who've applied and are wanting to contextualize all this stuff more and are really going deeper with it. In all those spaces, we are agreeing to show up honest, not put the pressure on the group to need to fix us when that's unrealistic, because really I'm the one that needs to take ownership over my life, and that may mean that I have trusted friends that I go and I just need a hug right now, or I need you to listen, or I do need advice, or I go to a therapist, or I go to whoever. But in this space, we can't, the three of us are in a relationship, but in a call where you don't really know people, you're not really in their backyard or their neighbor, you're not their best friend, we can't ask too much of that space. And it is so awesome, actually, what happens when you have a space to show up, own your stuff, work on your relationship with God, share that or not share that, and not pick up everybody else's burdens. It's like this amazing practice, because a lot of us, our way of being right in the world is to carry everybody else's stuff and to ignore our own. And then what really happens is we're leaving ourselves bleeding out, so actually other people then have to triage us, and we think we're helping them, so we feel good about ourselves, but really we're not really looking at our own stuff and owning our own life. And I just know that it's a good thing to have a space where we are committed to not fixing each other, but also showing up honest.
For sure. And I think that, like yesterday, I did what I did for me, right? But I also understand.
Because sometimes people do that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't want to share right now because I'm embarrassed or whatever. It was like, no, what you were doing was what you knew was best for you in that moment.
I knew that's what I needed right then, and it was best for me. And I had to check myself, because there was a part of me that was like, well, I should share, but I was like, no, I don't. And I asked God, and I felt like he was like, no, let's stay in this. This is going to be beneficial for you to stay in this. And then ultimately I felt like it was good for people to see someone who is often a facilitator and usually a sharer decide not to share.
Yeah.
And be in the place that I was in. So I think that's important to do that, but especially around this whole topic that we started talking about. I'm curious, John, how you experience this, the whole concept of getting it right, and how it's shown up for you in your life.
All the ways.
All the ways.
All the ways.
I don't know. I have a lot of different thoughts. I'd have to probably go back and spend a lot of time thinking on like ways that feeling like right behavior, like the pressure of right behavior has affected me, because I don't know. I feel like I've been on a journey of letting go of that for a while. So it's not something I feel all the time. Definitely like will hear the voice of the critic, but I don't like believe it. So I think it's like more like I'll just start to feel like I'm building up. Like when your RAM starts to, we don't experience this stuff much anymore, but when the RAM on a computer, which is like its working memory, starts to fill up and you have to like restart the computer to just dump the working memory. That's kind of how I feel like some of that voice of you're not doing this right is, but it doesn't feel real, versus like having it in your like actual stored memory or a part of your operating system. So my two thoughts in that. One is like, we're all going to hear that voice all the time. How much we believe it and how much we let it affect how we live and how we think and how we relate to others depends on how much it's like corrupting our operating system.
John, can you tell us more about how that started for you? Because I do think you've been on a long journey of not listening to that voice. And that's really kind of special.
Sucking at being right, I think was the first part. Is like, you know, um, they, I think from like a really young age, I started to feel like I can't do what I'm supposed to do. Like if you tell me there's like this is the way that people are supposed to be, there are some people that latch onto that and are like, "Thank you. You have given me definition, and because you've given me definition, I can now know how to live." And there's a level of freedom in that. For me, I always felt like I was just like getting squeezed so hard, and I was just like, I can't do this. I don't want to do this. Like I'd rather just, so, the guys that go kind of disconnect from society, like there's like a deep part of me. It's like I'd rather just bail on society and go, be what was that movie that came out in like
Jeremiah Johnson.
mid 2000s where Eddie Vedder was on the album for it, soundtrack.
Well, I'm interested now.
I know, I am too. I
It
love
was it was
Eddie
huge,
Vedder.
but Into the Wild,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Oh
like
yeah.
Right.
resonated so much with me, and I watched it so many times and all that stuff. But obviously, that's not right. Like, there's something I don't want to say it's wrong, but it's not like that's not the answer for everyone. It's not practical. It's not real. We have these real lives we need to live, and the path that God has for us may require us to live in the world. But long story short, I felt judged so much, and I felt like there were things that people took for granted. Like, of course, and still, I mean, not everyone, so many people walk around saying, this is how you're supposed to live. This is how things are supposed to be. Here's my theology, and I'm 100% confident it's right. And I've never been able to like fit in that box. So I went through, I think that required me to need to get healing. And so I did have an inner healing session like when I was 21, and it was like super freeing, but it wasn't me getting free from the believing the voice of accusation and believing that I was doing things wrong. It was more me getting free from believing that I can't be a part of the world, like because I saw myself as so different, but I'd also taken that part of myself that can't fit in and can't do things right, and I had created this perception of my identity where I was the wild man made for wild spaces. I couldn't participate in normal.
Well, that like
Um,
became your right. What's right
Yeah.
is to be the wild man, even though it's wrong to other people.
yeah, I don't know. Maybe that the other concept of like right is like and we started this conversation before we got on here, but I think we define right so much in the Christian industrial complex and pretty much every religion everywhere, every society everywhere. We define right based on behavior, which is like so dangerous because the God's creation is not organized around behavior. Like his organizing model is identity. So if we were gonna say what is right versus what is not right, then I would argue that right has to be alignment with who God created us to be. And wrong would be going against that. And so that's not to create a new set of rules, but at this concept of like we are either becoming more who God created us to be and living more in alignment with how he created us to live. And the fruit of that is always going to be good, or we're moving out of that. Like I don't even know if you can stay stuck. Like I don't even know if you can just stay in one place or if you're actually regressing from yourself. I don't know.
I I think even personally that I feel like I know what you're saying, but I think even identity is a little bit limiting. Like I think for me, it's just life. Like it's the flow of life. Like and there's things that characterize that. Like there's a
How
lot
is
of
identity limiting? for you?
Well, I think it's again, it's like a necessary concept of like I am or we are whatever. But I think well, like core drivers is a good example. Like I really do believe that God made us all uniquely, and we're driven by this way that he made us, and that can function in a really beautiful healthy way that will continue to like allow life to flow to us, through us, around us, and then it can function in an unhealthy way. But I think if we it helps us understand, but I think it's always growing and teeming with life that actually redefines it. It's just not set, is maybe what I'm trying to say. It's not, and I think that's true in like the way that you look at ecosystems and the organic nature of things. Like you can define them and categorize them like bird, human, you know, antelope, mountain, but there's this evolution that takes place, and I don't mean that as a triggering word. I just mean like, I mean that we continue to grow and change and adapt, and so sometimes identity words can be limiting, I think. But this is
When
off
I
track. Like, I mean, not off track. I'm not saying like we may want to end this conversation here, but I would love to hear more what you're saying as far as identity, because I also may just be hearing it differently than you mean it.
Well, I'm not saying identity in terms of like I would say I have no idea what my identity is in the
Okay,
fullness
there you
of
go.
who God created me to be.
Yeah, agreed.
And I definitely don't think my identity is, hi, I'm John Walt. Here are the things I do, the places I
That
go, and the
that's
place
the
I
thing that
live,
I'm
and the
saying as
people
well.
I associate with. No, I'm saying identity is like, it's like DNA beyond, like it's like some sort of like spiritual DNA that you are like, and I say that because like DNA tells us our body how to organize, you know, like, and it
That's what I would
guides.
call life. That's what I mean when I say
Oh,
life. So we're saying the same thing.
yeah, and I've just started to think of identity as like the way that God created us to function, and so that the more, so it's like, so personally, I believe I will never fully live into the identity that God created for me. So I'm constantly growing into it. I'm constantly learning more about it. I'm constantly pursuing it, and most of getting there is starts with me letting go of what I think what I'm holding on to, and what identity I've constructed for myself out of my fears and insecurities and all that stuff.
Yeah.
I think that's a part of what's allowed the space for me to be confronted by the power of this whole right and wrong thing, is that I have tasted the flow of life in God, who is the source and who is my creator, who created me according to an identity. He made me versus what the reason I responded so well. I wish could have responded like you. The reason I responded so well to right and wrong was it just fit right in with my need for structure, and I got so much, my ego responded so well to right and wrong. So it built my ego self. I got so much good response from it.
Yeah.
I got accolades, I got affirmation, I was a good girl, I was a hero child, I was all these things. And so here my ego just got bigger, 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 and more solidified in this idea of, well, this is, in air quotes again, this is who you are. You are
Yeah.
this person.
Yeah. And who you
And
should,
Who
who
you
I
should
should
be, yeah.
be. And what it did was stifle so much of my essential self that God really intends for me to live in the fullness of. And the more healed I've gotten and the more I've tasted of that flow of God, where I taste moving with him in who I was actually created to be, and the freedom and the peace and the joy in it, all of that bumps up against the hard edge of ego.
The hard edge of your false identity.
Of the false, and that's what I mean, ego, false identity.
Totally.
Yeah.
Well, and I think that's why I bring up the thing, because identity, and maybe this is a great conversation to have, and I think you're probably writing the book about it, John, but identity, the word can be crunched down to mean so little.
Yeah.
You know, and this is a great thing. I'm a mom. I love that. But it's gonna be real lacking if I am so consumed by my identity as a mom. Whether I'm being the mom I'm supposed to be or I'm messing it up. Either way, when my identity is reduced, that's really that functioning from the knowledge of good and evil. Oh, it's great, I'm a mom, and this is how I should be a good one and not be a bad one. And I'm doing it, or I'm not doing it, or I'm kind of doing it, or whatever, but I'm just gotten compressed into this thing versus like, God, my identity is something so much bigger that's actually more like this flow of life that I find in connection with God, with my deepest sense of self. And I don't think you can not go to a mystical place. John brought this up earlier.
I was thinking that same thing.
Because it's beyond rational thinking.
Yes, it's experience of God. It's our experience. Yeah, it's so much deeper. And like John, to your point, talk about it. What you were saying earlier, John, just about our whole obsession with the intellect and understanding and the mind beyond experience, separate from experience.
Like part of what I've been writing on is this concept of what I'm calling masculine spirituality, and it's more this concept of like, what is my identity? Can I actually step into truly what it means to be a man and be myself without there being a spiritual component? It's like, absolutely not. I don't believe. And then you go, well, what does that mean? Well, it actually opens you up to the mystical, because you have to embrace the unknown. And so suddenly it's like, anyhow, like I talk a lot about how we have to really take apart and forget about all these archetypes we've created, like subconsciously, culturally, because we are created to live in a tension of very practical things that we understand and very impractical things that we don't understand but are necessary for us to live in relationship with. And if I shut that part off, the part that I don't understand, then I'm actually cutting myself off. Like it's like a crime against myself and against my identity and who I was created to be. I feel, and where that came from is this whole obsession with scientific thinking and scientific process, which is amazing. I mean, there's some incredible things that have come out of it. I'm not like nostalgic for the days when we didn't have that. But what's so interesting is that the wise man, like I'm going into archetypes here. I'm not really meaning to, but the pursuit of wisdom used to be centered in a much bigger way around spirituality and the question of how do we live, and who is God and all that stuff. But then we've taken that pursuit and we've turned it into the application of knowledge and leveraging that knowledge to create machines and tools and all that stuff, which has been amazing. So now the practical world is completely revolutionized, and we've all benefited immensely from that. But the other half of wisdom has just like totally been forgotten about. And so we can't go into that other part of wisdom without actually embracing that most of it is unknown and will never be known. And it goes back to that concept I know I talk about a decent amount, like nobody knows what they're doing, and how like we have to just accept we don't actually know. And it's such arrogance and ego to define something that we can't actually understand. Like when I think about theology from that perspective, not to like offend anyone, I'm just like, It's like, think about that. Like, theology is me saying, here's what I know to be true about God. And you're like, great, how much can you actually know? And then you look at what people have written down, what the hills that they've died on over the years, and you go, like, if you just truly think about how big God is and how little we can understand of him, then you have to just say, this is like a massive exercise in self-obsession just to even do this. And but the reason people don't want to step outside of theology is because they don't want to embrace the unknown and live
Well,
in the unknown.
we stripped theology of the unknown. With the
Yeah.
preeminence of science, then the emphasis became on the practical and what could be proven. And
Yeah.
so there's this great book, and it's called Re-enchanting the Text. And she talks about that. It's like we've stripped all the mystery. Where's all of the mystery and the enchanting nature of God? Makes another thing that
Yeah.
makes me want to cry. We've stripped God of all the enchantment, of all the mystery, of the beauty, of the things that we can't wrap our heads fully around, but we can experience the depth of. And so it's so true. And it's really interesting to look at, you can see historically, the evolution of what got us here, and then therefore the loss of value
Yeah.
for that and the fear of it actually.
Yeah.
So now we're at a place where so many, I don't know though, and maybe it's because I myself am in pursuit of it. I'm exposed to others who are in pursuit of it, and there seems to be a deep hunger for it in the world. People are hungry for that mystery and the depth and beauty, and because the other just doesn't, it really doesn't satisfy.
Well, and
Yeah.
you're just so perfectly describing the human paradigm.
Yeah.
And we're describing it in terms of what's happened recently with the rise of industrialization and science and being part of the Western world, especially where we elevate the mind, which again, it's all good. But then when we focus on one as this is the right way, there's always going to be a cost on something else. But before that, 2,000 years ago, there was a cultural right way, there was the individual right way, and it was still, there is a right way, and this is how you get it right and avoid being wrong. And I mean, it's like you think about Jesus' day, and he's like sitting there talking to the Pharisees, of which he probably was very close and could have been called a Pharisee himself. He's of them, and they're going, this is the thing that needs to be emphasized, and you are not doing the thing that you're supposed to be doing. And he's saying there's just a different way, and it resonates because he's speaking to the thing in humans that's deeper than the first thing. And
Yeah.
everybody has the first thing. And you know what I mean? And a minute ago, when we were talking about John and how at an early age, he didn't get stuck so much in the how to do it right according to everybody else around him, but he was still, there's no doubt in my mind, doing what he thought was right in his mind. And he was also probably having a deeper mystical thing too. And there's the interplay of that. And I hear it even in what you're saying, John, about like holding the two, being able to like navigate both, because we're not saying throw out all the rules. There is no right and wrong. That's not the conversation.
Yeah.
Of course there's right and wrong. Of course it would be so wrong for me to go murder somebody, It's
Yeah.
not about that. It's about I think it's, for me, the best way to describe it is it's about what's driving me. Am I being driven by clinging to this thing that actually keeps me disconnected from this mystery? That
Yeah.
we're talking about. And that's, I think, the word I use most often, because to me it's the most accessible one, is the flow of life. Like the love, God, our connection to that. But it is the thing you're talking about. It's the unknown. It's just this force that we cannot do that to. We only really get to flow with it and become one with it and realize we are one with it. As soon as we get so arrogant as to apprehend it, we're losing something.
Well, we can't stop it, really. We cannot live in it, but we can't stop it. And I'm so thankful I look back over my life. That's what saved me. What has saved me is the flow of life. God, his presence, his beauty, his love never left me. He won't leave us. He won't leave any of us. We may have the perception that he has. We may even have the experience that we believe that he has, but he can't. He can't leave us. And because we can't be separate from him. That's actually an illusion. We can separate ourselves through our beliefs or whatever, but that's been the thing throughout my whole life that's actually tethered me, even when I didn't know I was tethered.
Well, it's
Was his
illusion. Like
what?
it's the human illusion that we
Right.
think we're alone, and we wake up to the fact that we're not.
Yeah.
I've been using this term right order versus right behavior because everything we in our culture is all about what you should and shouldn't do, how you should and shouldn't behave. Right order is like recognizing that, for instance, like, well, let me use an example. If I go out and like decide that money is the most important thing and I'm just going to pursue money, I'm out of the right order of, to use your term, the flow of life, Casey. And over time, I'm just going to keep moving further and further away. And the consequences are, I mean, we see this all the time. How many people get wildly successful and feel completely broken and completely shut down? Their relationships have all fallen apart. They can't be alone with themselves. You look at that and you go like, that is the fruit of what I would say is not the right order. And the right order, and I'm not trying to use the word right in like a triggering sense, but I do think there's like a way of relating, an order of connection that we were created for. And when we're in that, we are moving in we're on the journey that we're supposed to be on, like towards the living from the identity that God created us for more and more and more. It's like the growing and the bearing fruit and all that stuff. But when we have these things out of order, it's like we actually are just cutting ourselves off from life. And I feel like it's so easy to obviously relationship with God and connection to God is like the foundational right order. At least that's the terms I would use for it. And how do we make that the center of everything? And I feel like that's what you're saying, Anne-Marie, around like in the middle of all of the right and wrong stuff, there was like this connection to God and this journey with God that saved you.
Well, because that's what we're created for. We were actually created for that, to live in relationship and connection with him.
Well, and
With
just
God.
to drive home the point of how it's so human to function in this need to get it right. Like, I totally agree and think you're exactly right about. But I mean that.
Thanks.
I mean that legitimately.
How do you feel like I'm
Yeah,
right?
you're right. No, but I'm not just saying that, and I'm not saying that because it's about being right. I'm saying like, no, I really think you're right. Like the whole right order thing, and it starts from connection. But as somebody who's obsessed with doing it right according to what everybody's telling me about God, it killed me and it saved me all at the same time. Like from a young age, I was put in these scenarios where I was being told how to get that right order right. And I was like so about getting it right. And the very thing that I needed to get right, which caused death because I needed it, and I thought that made me okay, also gave me access to the language, the skills, the experience of the thing that actually brings life. And it's all like wrapped up in one weird
Yeah.
called like American Evangelical in the 80s and 90s church. And there's a bunch of stuff that's messed up about it. And then there's really life-giving things. And I think I could have been in the middle of another country on the other side of the world and had a whole different cultural thing. And it probably would be the same thing. But I think this conversation gets harder for us to have it, like you said, inside of any religious paradigm that says there's a right way to connect with God and be right about it. versus describing the bigger and creating spaces together where we're just experiencing that bigger thing and looking at what it is to live in it. And I guess to bring the conversation a little full circle, like why the one circle? And maybe we just post this one to the larger podcast for this time, because we're trying to talk about, we wanted to talk about the one circle, what it is and why we have it. But the number one for me is I want more spaces where we can come and have honest conversations like this one, and kind of also do something that isn't just a spiritual, cerebral practice.
Mm-hmm.
Or even an emotional, this is the way we should be doing it. Anne-Marie earlier was talking, you led worship for so many years, so beautifully, and it was such a gift to so many of us. And I know you loved it, and I know it's coming from your heart, from God. And at the same time, you're wrestling with even is it? Where was the motivation? And it doesn't matter in some ways, like it was part of your journey, but your wrestle with the worship thing is an exact perfect picture of this. Like, you 1,000% prioritized worship, connection with God, putting your whole heart into it. And yet, as you continue to grow, there's a cracking open for you around even an identity that came from that. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But back to the one circle for just a second, and I want you to talk about the worship thing. We want a space where even less than this conversation, because this conversation's great, but even less than that, I want people to know, and I want a space where I know I can come and just practice the thing of connection and beauty with God and talk about it. Because there's a ton of other spaces where we can talk about theology. There's a ton of other Bible studies. And again, good, bad, and ugly, it's all happening there. You can go any day and find a sermon online, or go to a church and find a sermon. And whether it's right or wrong, I'm not so concerned about, other than there's been a lot of stimulus for us around a cerebral understanding of our faith and what's good, what's bad, and how to do it. I think there's less spaces where you actually practice getting into that flow, waking up to that flow of life. Tuning into the mystery and allowing us the space to go, I don't know about this, or this is challenging me in this way, without it being a threat. Because I know that at least in some of the spaces I used to be in, certain things you could say and get away with, and other things are a threat, and it means you are wrong, or you're going down a slippery slope, or whatever. And I think the love of God is just so much more comfortable with our process and our processing of life. It's almost like we're so threatened, I think, sometimes by this mystery that if it's mysterious to us, the process you're going through, it feels threatening and makes me feel not safe. And that is one thing about the one circle that we're trying to do, which is come and be in your process where you are. Let's just process it with God and practice it for real. So we do a lot more practicing than we do talking about stuff.
Yeah.
Other than on this podcast, we're talking about stuff.
I think the thing that's really helpful about it is that it's not without parameters. You know, these spaces, there are very few of them, but they're present, that they're guidelines. You know, this is the way that we like to share. No, we're not here to fix each other. We're here to be present for one another. We're not dogmatic. We hold things loosely. I mean, and this, God's voice sounds like this. Other voices sound like this. I mean, some very small number of parameters that I think help create a sense of security for people, that help them be able to be where they are. And that's the thing that's fascinating about it to me, actually, is like when you come into a call, people are in different spaces. People go to different kinds of churches. Some people don't go to church. You know, people use different language, but you don't really even notice that. What you notice is that human experience and connection with this human and God. And it's I
In
so
this
under
moment.
in this moment, and I so underestimated the power of that, the power of witnessing to one another and getting to see the consistency of God. And it's a really beautiful, and I so agree with you. There's so few spaces like that available, and I know that for me personally, it's been a super valuable. It's different than doing it alone.
Yeah, it absolutely is.
It's very different than doing it alone, and it's been really cool to see relationships build through it in a very different way. It's not, we're not connecting on our trauma. We're not connecting on our, because they're not super emotional and pain driven. I don't know. It's just really cool to see.
Yeah, and it's
What
weird.
I feel like what you okay.
You go, John.
No, I just feel like what unites us and a lot of the people that have come around one over the years is like we all are on this one journey with God. Mm-hmm. And that journey is not the journey to define our beliefs perfectly or to assume that we have the right beliefs. It's a journey into relationship with God. And
Starling
so
do
that,
us wrong.
oh, did it pause?
Elon,
No. Wait, what
I
happened?
hope John comes back in,
I
but I
know.
want to just say that that's exactly it. We're all aware and interested in sharing and going a little deeper together on this one journey without needing it to look like so many times people join our community and start coming to all our stuff and they're like, this needs to be my church, this is our church. And I'm like, well, yeah, if you want to define church in a way that the Bible seems to, which is the people following Jesus, all of them, yeah. But no, we're not going to call it a church, and we're not going to gather even on Zoom on Sundays. That's not what we're doing. What we are doing, one piece of it is what we were just describing, the workshops, the live Zooms. There's other pieces. It's really about our community going and sharing this journey of connection and the mystery of connection and oneness with God in practical ways. What does it look like practically in my day-to-day life? So it's really about people who want to grow deeper together with God and with each other and more into to the fullness of, that never-ending experience of life through you and life through your life. So we're going to keep resourcing it, meaning we're going to do in-person things. We're going to do these podcasts that are just for the One Circle. There already is a video platform with tons of content on it. And we're going to just continue to really put our best conversations and our best practices and our time where we show up live into the people who are wanting to be part of the One Circle community, because we know that if you're wanting to be part of that, you are a person who, like John was just saying, wants to go deeper together around this journey and understands that we're all at different places in that, but we're interested in it. We're interested in the conversation. We're interested in the practicing together. We're interested in conversations, drawing in other people around those conversations. So our commitment to the One Circle is that we're going to continue to gather and practice and talk about these things. John, jump back in. I kind of just commented more and gave more clarity about what the One Circle is and who it's for, but I want to let you finish your thought.
Sorry about that. Internet problems today. Well, no, I mean, I think pretty much we've hit on it, but it's about the journey. It's not about all the other junk. And when I look at what we've made of life with God in the modern world, most of it is not about that journey on the most fundamental level. And that's what we're trying to get back to together. And that looks different for some people. Some people need to do all of that or so much more of that with a group of people that they're processing. And for some people, it's like for me, the way I engage with it is just very
John
different.
won't be in the workshops usually.
Yeah.
Sorry, go on.
No, but I so value the space that's created in the conversation. And when I say conversation, I'm not even meaning this recorded conversation or the conversations that happen on the weekly calls. I'm talking about the larger conversation of how do we keep coming back to refocusing on what's actually going on here, which is we're all on this journey and we're all people that really, really, really want to live from relationship and connection to God. And we all know that that's not a cookie cutter, one size fits all
Right.
off the shelf deal. So,
Yeah, and I kind of
Yeah.
interrupted you, but what John was saying is where I want everybody to hear this because John's not doesn't enjoy as much showing up to the group things. But he's so in really from this place of heart, like this alignment with the thing we're all interested in. And so I appreciate what you're saying so much, John, because part of the journey of one and us even figuring out our way of being in the world currently is how do we put structure and a program to something that is such a deep journey, so personal, and yet we share it? And how do we support people while they're on it and want spaces that they can't find in a ton of other places and that they do want to share? And, whether that's live or just recorded or just books that we're reading or coming to the One Journey and then coming back 2 years later in person, we're just trying to kind of create a bunch of different offerings where this conversation is happening just because the one thing that aligns us is that this matters so much. The processing of it together, whatever that looks like, matters. And even if that's just you consuming some of the material and then realizing that you want to have you are already having these conversations with maybe a spouse or a group of friends or a coworker or somebody you're mentoring or being mentored by, or you don't have to have a definition on it, but in your world, it's taking a certain shape. That's really exciting to us. We may never have a conversation personally. You may never join a workshop, but if this is able to bring something that's life-giving to your context, that is what we are all about and so excited about, because I think that is the way of God in the world and we trust it. It's a flow. And so the One Circle really is for people. It may just be for a season for you where you're kind of in this flow where this is something that God is doing through you and around you, and we want to support that whatever that looks like. And then also we can't just be available to everyone all the time. So if you want live interaction, show up to the live things. You'll get links for them. If you don't, that's great too. There's all these other ways that we're going to be providing resources for whatever season you're in.
Well, I think also it's
What
it's
else
good.
about the One Circle, guys? You mentioned no dogma, or that we really avoid being dogmatic in the way that we talk about hearing God, and that's a really big deal to me. If you're like, I don't know if I would want to show up to a place where people are trying to hear from God and then talk about it, because there's a lot of threats right there. Like, what if I'm wrong? What if I don't know how? I mean, and everybody feels that. We really try to make it easy because we all know what that's like. And we don't use language like God said it means so then I'm going to do this, or God told me to do this. So now
thus saith the Lord.
See, yeah, this is not a thus saith the Lord. Even if you really, really, really feel like God's saying it, great. Use language that's softer. And we hold each other to this. We go, instead of saying, God said, I say, when I ask this question, here's what I got, or this is what I felt like I got. I'm not sure what it means, but here's my impression. I'm going to keep having this conversation. I'm going to hold it with an open hand. And then I'm going to own my actions that I take out of it. I'm not going to blame it on God. God told me to do this. I'm not going to blame it. I think we've just done a lot around our faith because we listen to somebody's idea of how to get it right, and then we pin that on them and God, and then I just did it. Rather than going, no, where am I in this? And like, where do I need to take ownership over what's driving my action? So ultimately, it's really all about growing and healing. And that's a process. It takes time, it takes practice, and it takes not needing to be right about it. God said this, it means this, I figured it out. And that we all want that. We all want the magic bullet, but it's not actually what we need. And it's not actually real. There is no magic bullet. There is no booming voice from the sky that you're going to hear once and it's going to radically change your life, even though it might alter it. There is just the process and the flow of life, and we're in it together. And so that's what the One Circle community is about. What did I miss, y'all? What have you not talked about around One Circle?
Well, one of the things that I would add, just two things. One being, with regard to what you just said, one of the things I love is that it really, in the space, prioritizes relationship. Not being so certain about everything, right? Having to do all of that. Prioritizes the relationship and the flow with God Himself and the connection with Him. And I see that happen with people, and that's beautiful. The other part is that I really want to also encourage people who, maybe you're not looking for, like Casey was saying, joining the calls or coming to a workshop or whatever, but you really love the work that we're doing and you want to be a supporter and a provider for other people who want to access the work. We love that you want to be a part of it too, just for that reason, if that's why you want to do it. Because we have a lot of people who are regular supporters of One and do so because they love the work and they want to see people be able to access it.
Yeah, we've really wanted to marry the support of the work, the funding of the work, and the community and what we do all into one. And what I mean by that is we for a long time had a fundraising arm, a development arm that took a lot of our time and our resources, and it wasn't integrated with the heart of the mission of what we do. And that was hard for all of us. And so we've spent years trying to figure out how to make them one. So the simple answer for us is this simple concept of mutuality, and something that I learned from a Hebrew teacher, shalom. And that is that I asked him what shalom meant. I said, does shalom really mean peace? And he goes, no, that's a really ethereal concept. Shalom is this. There's a guy who has a field and he grows carrots. He harvests those carrots. He's worked hard to get them ready. He takes them to the corner store, and the moment where he sells them to the guy who has the corner stand where he sells fresh fruit, that moment of exchange where the store owner needs the carrots and the carrot guy needs money for his livelihood, that exchange is shalom. And then he goes further and says, and then I come to the store and I need some carrots to go home and make my dinner. And the moment that we have this great life-giving exchange, this is shalom. It's really mutuality. It's a win-win. It's you have something, I can give you something, you can take from me in a way that's beneficial. It's not just give, take. And a lot of our nonprofit world is really set up that way. I mean, probably our for-profit world too. It's like about what you can get or what I can take or what this person gives out of the generosity of their heart, but they really aren't getting anything back. So the One Circle is all about mutuality. And so it isn't, we don't see it as we're just pouring out. We see it as we're taking part in this. We're growing too, and we all give monthly to any amount. There's no requirement. It's not like $100 a month or something. It's like everybody who takes part just give back monthly. You could give $1, you could give $10,000. And there may be some people who go, I'm never going to show up, but I really care that you guys are creating this space, and I do give $10,000 a month. And that's amazing. But it's not more amazing than the person who's going, all I can give is $67 a month, and I'm going to soak up every bit of the stuff for this season of my life. That is awesome too. It's really about you evaluating where you want to give your flow of life and receive. Where do you want mutuality to happen? And is it bringing you life? And if it is, give back. If it's not, there's probably something else for you. So that's how we are funding One. And some of our past donors don't really know what we're doing. want you to know, I hope you listen to this podcast. Also, just so you know what this work is funding, it's funding far more than the One Circle. It's funding what we've always done, which is creating a space where anybody can come and have the support to connect with God themselves. We call them connection prayer appointments. They're personal. We've offered them for 20 years. We will continue to offer them. It's such a joy to do it. We do them with kids. We do them with adults. We do them with anyone from any background. And the most amazing things really do happen there. We are able to support people when they're walking through really tough seasons. We've been able to be there for people just recently going through this flood. We also do personalized type things. Like I will show up and lead a group of 20 kids through an art prayer where they learn how to hear God's voice and express it through prayer. They learn how to process trauma with Jesus. I'll show up at a couples evening where there's 5 couples and they just want to go a little deeper. So there's things that we do like that all the time. Again, we don't charge a certain amount. We just say, give back. Let this flow of life happen in a tangible way. And so when you're part of the One Circle and you're giving monthly, and that's how we will know that you are wanting to be part of it, is that you'll sign up for a recurring donation of any amount. When you do that, you are also supporting some of the work that we have done for free for a very long time that has been funded by our supporters.
That's really good. We have this picture of ministry and nonprofit work and all that stuff that's very much shaped out of our cultural thinking. Just like we talked about the church and what's happened in a lot of the Western church, and how cultural thinking, primarily that we focus on facts and information over relationship, connection, and journey, stuff like that. You look at the way that we approach giving most of the time, it is not this idea of shalom, and it's like what am I going to get? And in one of my recent notes, I mentioned how my grandfather used this term psychic income. He gave away tons of money and a lot, and he said he got psychic income out of it, and that's why he was doing it. And it's like, but then and so that's like one end of the spectrum. The other end is like
what's psychic income?
It's basically the idea that I am going to get a return on this investment, but that return is feeling good about myself.
Gotcha.
I'm saying there are some people that give to feel good about themselves, and there's some people that give to create an outcome in the world.
Right.
But I think what we're talking about, and what's captivated me about this idea of shalom and mutuality, is what does it actually look like to give into this the work that God is doing in people's lives. It's not a put a nickel in and get a thing out. It's continually creating space. I got a call from a friend of mine recently who did a prayer appointment a number of months ago, and this is like the 3rd time recently that he's called me to say, hey, that prayer appointment changed my life. And you're looking, you're going, wow, what happens when God just journeys with people is so powerful. The long-term effect of that is so substantial, and yet in the beginning, it just feels so simple and small. You know what I mean? And it's like, how do we honor that what God does moves? It seems to be moving more like that, growing, rather than this whole idea of I'm going to put money in and I'm going to get something out. Back to your point. So I love that the way that we've moved at One, as we've tried to figure this whole thing out, is we want to be more about who are the people that God's brought around us, and how do we have what each other needs. And
Yeah. It feels like investment that is much more like a garden, like the planting and the watering and that kind of return, versus like you're saying, almost like a slot machine or the psychic. I'm thinking of a very inappropriate image here, but just self-satisfying only.
Yeah.
Well, I'm really glad to get to talk about the One Circle. You'll hear us talk about it some more, but also reach out to us if you want more information. Our website, one-sa.org will get you there as well. And then you can always reach out to office@one-sa.org if you need anything. And thanks you guys. This conversation started as one thing, it became another, but I'm excited to share it with everybody.
I am too. I think it was really good.
All right, I love y'all. See ya.
Love y'all. See you soon.
Yeah.